Hey, Shalom, guys. Welcome to another episode of Who is the Suffering Servant? And today we'll be specifically looking at Isaiah 52:13, and this is what it says. Behold, my servant will prosper, and he will be high and lifted up and greatly exalted. Now, in early Jewish interpretation, the servant of the Lord presented in Isaiah 52:13 is the promised Davidic Messiah king. In Targum, Yonatan paraphrases saying, quote, "Behold, my servant the Messiah shall prosper. He shall be exalted and extolled." Here, Isaiah declares that the servant of the Lord will, quote, prosper, right? Or sakal in the Hebrew, a word that is better translated as act wisely or be prudent. Now, here the Ramban or Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman explains, at the time of the redemption, the Messiah will perceive and understand, or sakal, the end, and know when the period of his coming is at hand. And the time has arrived for him to reveal himself to the congregation of those that are waiting for him. Now, the Ramban here also cites Daniel 12:9 to support his interpretation. Quote, "Many will be purged, purified, and refined, but the wicked will act wickedly, and none of the wicked will understand, but those who have insight or sakal will understand." The exaltation of the servant of the Lord is described in three expressions. The servant will be one, high, two, lifted up, and three, greatly exalted. An early and once well-known midrash on the passage explains Isaiah 52:13 to speak of Messiah's exaltation above the forefathers, above Moses, and even above the angels. The midrash appears in numerous sources with numerous variations on the same theme. For example, Rabbi Moshe Cohen Ibn Crispin cites it as, quote, "According to the midrash of our rabbis, quote, he will be higher than Avraham or Abraham, more exalted than Moshe or Moses, and loftier than Shlomo or Solomon, exceedingly above the ministering angels." Even Rashi cited the messianic exaltation as an alternative interpretation to his. And this is huge for Rashi because Rashi was very against the idea of the suffering servant that we read in Isaiah to be even close to Messiah, that it's actually Israel. Now, the writer of the book of Hebrews offers similar thoughts on the exaltation of Messiah when he says, quote, "He sat down at the right hand of majesty on high, having become as much better than the angels as he has inherited a more excellent name than they." And this is, of course, Hebrews chapter 1, verse 3 and 4. And when he says, quote, "He has been counted worthy of more glory than Moses," Hebrews 3:3. Paul even points directly to Isaiah 52:13 when he says, quote, "For this reason also God highly exalted him," Philippians chapter 2. The Messiah is lifted, quote, "far above all rule and authority and power and dominion and every name that is named, not only in this age, but also in the age to come." Ephesians chapter 1, verse 21. The following version of the Midrash plays on the Hebrew words for high, ram, lifted up, nasa, and exalted, gava, finding a corresponding form of the word in reference to Abraham, Moses, and the angels, respectively. Now, this is a quote from Yakut right here. So this refers to the King Messiah. He is greater than the patriarchs, as it is said in Isaiah 52:13. "My servant will be high and lifted up, greatly exalted," higher than Abraham, who says in Genesis 14:22, "I have raised my hand high to the Lord," lifted up above Moses, to whom it is said in Numbers 11:12, lift it to your bosom, more exalted than the ministering angels, of whom it is written in Ezekiel 1:18, "As for their rims, they were exalted and awesome. And out of whom does he come forth? From David. The same collection of midrash from Yachot right here employs Isaiah 52:13 to prove that the servant of the Lord is called the Son of God. Now here's another quote. The words concerning my servant are told already in the Torah, the prophets, and the writing. That is the Tanakh, the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. Where in the Torah, as it says in Exodus 4:22, Israel is my son, my firstborn. Where in the prophets, as it says in Isaiah 52:13, behold, my servant will prosper. And nearby in Isaiah 42:1, behold, my servant whom I uphold. Where in the writings, as it says in Psalms 110:1, the Lord said to my Lord, and in Psalms 271, the Lord, he said to me, you are my son. So again, these are all quotes from Yechot right here. Now, the student of rabbinic literature could cite numerous similar examples to prove that the early sages regarded the servant of the Lord in Isaiah 52:13 as a prophecy about the Messiah. Rashi, however, like I mentioned earlier, and many of the commentators that follow him depart from the earlier messianic interpretation and explain the high, lifted, and exalted servant of the Lord as the nation of Israel. This section refers to the Jews in exile, whom he calls, quote, my servant. And obviously, Ibn Ezra and Radak explain this. Nevertheless, the messianic interpretation persisted in Jewish thought. The Zohar, apparently compiled more than a century after Rashi, offers an interpretation in which the Messiah is compared to the moon, which in time to come be restored to its luminous. Moreover, God exalts his servant by means of giving him the keys to the resurrection, right? So check this out by the Zohar right here. Behold, my servant will prosper, and he will be high and lifted up and greatly exalted. Isaiah 52:13. He will be high above the light of all the luminaries, as it is written in Isaiah 30:18. He waits on high to have compassion on you. He will be lifted up above Abraham, lofty above Isaac, and greatly exalted above Jacob. All the dead who are in the dust will then awake. This is the mystery of my servant, in whose hands are the keys of his master, as were Abraham's in those days. And that's again from Zohar Vayeshiv 181b. And that right there is the explanation behind Isaiah 52:13. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Shalom.